Hello friends, for this week's media demonstration video, we're going to be using watercolor paint to finish this narwhal drawing. So narwhal are Arctic animals, they are hunters, they're predators, and this is a drawing of one that is looking for its dinner. So, or maybe breakfast. It depends. You can have this be a nighttime or a daytime picture. This could be sunrise, sunset. It could also be the northern lights and a full moon. Anything's possible. What we're about to do, guys, is talk about our supplies. So I always recommend that my students have at least 3 sizes of brushes at home. So a small, a medium, and a large. That just means you are ready for whatever you need. You might not use them all every time, but it's good to have them ready. Also, you're going to need a couple of paper towels. I always say use more than one. Have them ready to go, guys. That's because you might need it to dab the extra paint off your painting. You might need it to dry off a paintbrush or something. Just have it ready. Your paint should also be ready. So this is a mixing tray. The lid opens up and turns into a mixing tray. The paint is nice and dry from last time. The colors are pretty clean because I did my work to make sure they were ready for me. I always encourage my students to do the same thing. That way you're ready. You can just sit down and have some fun. You don't have to clean something or wait for something to get cleaned. You just start using it. All right, so I'm going to use my large brush to get started. I'm just going to dip it in the water, and what I'm going to do first is start by adding some water to each one of my little paint cups. And so by paint cups, I mean these little things that are holding the paint. They are dry, so right now I'm adding water to them. This is another thing a lot of students just don't seem to understand. And guys, I make these videos to help you understand. So please try this out when you're at home. So what I'm doing is I'm adding water to each one of these, and I'm just going to let the water sink into the paint because guess what? You need water for watercolor paint. All right, so I'm done with that. I'm going to set my large paintbrush aside. I might use it again later. I might not. So while the water is soaking into my little cups here, what I am going to do is take my medium brush, and I'm just going to add a little bit of water to my mixing tray now. And you know why I'm doing that? Because I'm cleaning it. You see what I'm doing? I am pressing the water down into whatever might be left over on my mixing tray. It was pretty clean, but I want it to be a little cleaner. So I am taking steps to make sure that it's a little bit cleaner. And now I'm going to use my paper towel, and I'm going to soak up that extra water. And voila, I have now paint that's ready to go. I have a mixing tray that's ready to go. And now I am ready to go. So let us begin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about painting the narwhal first. And so a lot of my students ask me, how do I make gray? There's no gray. Well, guys, all you got to do is get some black. See how it was ready to go when I was? And add water to it. Just water it down. Just add more water. And look, you can tell, just look at it. It's turning gray. That's right. So I also want to have a little bit of like a blue-gray going on. So I'm going to take a little bit of my black now and put it over here. I'm going to rinse out my brush, and I'm going to put a little blue in there. Now the blue is a really, really intense color, and I don't want it to be too intense. So I'm going to put some black in there. I want it to be a bluish gray. So what I'm going to do is add more black until it gets darker and darker. See what I just did there, friends? And guess what? I'm going to add water to it to make that blue-gray we talked about. So now I've used my mixing tray, and I have lots of paint ready to go. So I'm going to take this darker color, and it's not even that dark, but it's not the blue-gray color. And I'm going to start by putting this color on my narwhal's belly. I'm going to put it on the back of each fin. I'm going to put it on the bottom of the tail. Do you see how I'm not being super careful here, but I'm also taking a little bit of time to make sure that I get the underside. I'm also going to take this color and just go all the way to the end of its tusk. All right, so I'm going to move along here because I want these colors to mix and blend a little. I'm now going to use that blue-gray color. And I'm going to overlap a little bit with the first one, and it's still wet, so it's going to mix for me. I don't have to rub it in because it's going to do the work for me. Isn't that cool? That's because I'm letting the paint and the brush work for me. I'm not trying to force it. I'm just letting it do its job, which is really the best way. It's kind of like planting something in a garden and letting it grow by giving it water and fertilizer and sunlight, right? You give it the right things and it kind of does its own work, which is wonderful. Art's a lot the same way. All right, friends, so I've overlapped just a little bit. I'm going to let that dry, and I am going to take a little bit of this bluish color, and I'm going to go on this tusk again. Now, guys, if you want to use your smallest brush, you can. I am used to using the medium brush. You are welcome to use the smallest brush for the little things. In fact, I think that's a good idea to use for the eye, right? So I'm going to take my smallest brush, and I'm going to get a little more blue, just because it's a drawing. You know, it's okay if your narwhal has a blue eye. I'm going to mix that blue with a little bit of my gray here, and I'm just going to give this guy sort of a cool icy blue eye color. And then I'm ready to move on. So as you can see, it's already looking pretty great. I'm putting my smaller paintbrush aside, and I'm just going to move on here. So I have two great colors, and I don't want them to get too mixed into anything else, so I'm going to just get a little more black going on here. Remember, these fish in the background, they are in the background. They are not the main subject. We don't want them to stand out too much. So guys, I'm just going to do these fish, and then I'm going to go into time lapse to finish this drawing. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about those things, about being prepared, having your supplies ready, and ways that you can make, you know, the gray and the blue gray, and find ways to let it mix and blend for you. You can see how cool that looks already. I think that looks pretty awesome. So again, you could always switch over to your small brush if that's easier for you. And you can also, you know, sometimes it's fun to just take a dark color and just drop it down into the wet paint. So these fish won't have details, but they'll end up having sort of like speckles, and that's kind of cool too. All right, so what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to show you one more thing, because I want to keep talking about what you need to do to make sure you have a good result, but then I want to go into time lapse. Because I know I'm done with those colors, I'm going to just wipe this off right now. See what I did? Now I'm ready to keep going. And I'm going to put my mixing tray over a white part of the paper towel so that I can see. All right, guys, thanks for being patient. Thanks for listening. I'm going to go into time lapse. Remember, you need to go slow. Time lapse is fast. It's because it's a video, guys. And it's just to give you an idea of the color choices I'm going to make. I'll come back and do a conclusion in just a minute. Let's dive in. So that was pretty cool. I definitely wanted to point out a couple things before the end of this video, but you know, one of the things is we're working with colors that may or may not drip and blend and mix together, and just know that sometimes it does happen. Like this goes off at the edge here a little, so does that. And that's okay. That's part of the beauty of watercolor paint. Sometimes it does things that you can't predict and turns out amazing in ways you never thought it could. So that's a really good thing. It's called a happy accident. A beautiful oops, sometimes it's called. But for now, just think about how you can mix and blend your colors, guys. You saw that I had the greens and the blues and the purples, and I really wanted the water on the surface to look different than the water underneath the surface. I was on the fence. I wasn't sure about painting over my narwhal, but in the end I decided it was probably the best choice, and I'm glad I did. So that's what I mean about experimenting, trying things out. Remember, guys, if you draw this and you paint it and you think, well, it's not quite what I wanted, you can draw it again, guys. Draw it again. And you can also paint it again. It's really a great thing to do these over and over. If I do this again, which I will, I'll be making this more of a nighttime sky. I just wanted to have a good sort of a sunrise type of painting. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did, friends. Last thing before I go, I always have to make sure I tell you guys, you see how your paper towel is turning into artwork? Well, don't forget, clean your mixing tray. Do this for yourself, guys. You're doing yourselves a favor. See that? Boy, spick and span. And I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to press it into each little cup of paint, and I am going to fold it over each time. And what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning each one. Don't worry about what your paper towel looks like, guys. You may need a clean one though for your yellow. So I'm going through and I'm soaking up all the extra water in each little cup of paint. I'm going to make sure there's not a big drop of it in any of these spots. It just helps you guys to be ready for the next time. All right, guys, that's good enough. That looks pretty good to me. So my paint is ready. My brushes are ready for me next time. I rinse them out. They're just gonna sit and dry. Everything's gonna dry a little while and then be ready for me next time. All right, friends, that's it for today.